Let's go to Ann and Peter Pan in St. Louis. What's up, Ann?
Not too much.
How we doing?
I am okay.
Oh, that usually means not great. Not great.
Well, yes. So,
So good. Well, I'm going to come up with a smart... yeah, not good. All right, so tell me, what's up?
okay. I'll give you a little bit of backstory. I'll try to make it as short as possible.
Cool.
My husband and I have been married almost 5 years. And when we married, I say I inherited 3 kids. When his previous wife left, she walked away, not totally, but mostly. And so
What does that
together
mean?
we've been raising what? Excuse me, what?
What does that mean? Totally, but not mostly, or mostly, but not totally?
Okay, so with no warning, like he thought they were going to counseling, they were trying to work on things. She left,
Okay.
and couch hopped for 2 years. So she would see the kids sometimes, she wasn't out of the town. She'd see them for half an hour sometimes.
So she just showed up, just in and out like a.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. But there was no formal arrangement or formal agreement or anything like that. She just would show up and not show up.
Well, there is, but it's never been we technically have joint custody, but it's a joke.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so the kids were 12, 10, and 8 when we got married, and their life shifted completely.
Right.
In a healthier, better way, but still a major change. We used to have TVs in our room, and Anne's very anti-TVs in the room, so that disappeared.
Right.
And we moved and started a new school, and we go to church, and they love to go to church every Sunday, but they didn't do that before. And we used to have unlimited screen time, and we don't do that anymore. And just big life changes.
I want to throw one out there that I want to make sure we don't blow by. Okay. Their mom left them.
Oh, I know.
So regardless of the sea change of we don't do entertainment like this, or it's not free reign here, there's new rules in town, there's new sheriff in town. That's all stuff. That's fine. Their environment changed.
Right.
Their mama left them. Right? So when you say their life's for the better, I would say it's super not. Now, maybe the structure in their life and all that's better, but their mom looked at them and said, I'd rather go do something else than y'all. You see what I'm saying? So major trauma, I think one of the core traumas a person can experience, right? Is mom leaving them. So
I 100% agree. And I'm going to tell you more trauma that she keeps piling on.
Oh, good. Okay. All right.
Okay. So we have had problems with our oldest from kind of the beginning. First it started with, I can't sleep well.
Yep.
This is a kid that got straight A's, very, rule follower kind of kid, can't sleep. She's also probably on the spectrum, but she also got diagnosed this year with conversion disorder.
And what have y'all done as parents to rally around this young woman?
We've spent time together. We've talked, tried to listen, try to be what feelings are going on, what situations. We've gone to at least 2 counselors, maybe more.
Okay. Y'all put in the effort is what I was just getting at that. Y'all are trying. Okay.
On May 1st, our oldest attempted suicide. So our kid just got out of the mental hospital not very long ago.
Okay.
Her mother, who they see periodically, now has a nasty but home where they can go, has had a relationship. Now, 2 years ago, she told our oldest that she was in a polyamorous relationship.
Okay.
Which, exacerbated things also. But now it was long distance.
Why did that exacerbate things?
Okay, so long distance polyamorous boyfriend is now moving in.
Okay.
So there are going to be 2 boyfriends living in the house.
Okay.
And I didn't mention this, but my younger daughter, she has been to the counseling also, has attachment disorder, tends to be very super friendly with men, like inappropriately friendly, because she's so desperate for attention.
Okay.
We're terrified our kids are going to be molested.
Okay.
We are not okay with our kids going to stay at this house anymore.
Okay.
We don't know how to talk about this in a way that, that says,
hey, let me.
That we don't want you to hate your mom. We want you to love your mom as best you can, but
so here's
we're not okay with putting you in a dangerous situation.
Yes. So I'm going to make some broad assumptions, okay? And feel free to interrupt me and tell me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
How long have you and your husband been married?
It will be 5 years at the end of this month.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I wrote that down, 5 years. So in the last 5 years, and particularly the last 3 years, the world has unspooled on all of us, particularly on y'all.
Yeah.
And you have had a ringside seat to a beautiful young 12-year-old who is now a struggling, beautiful 17-year-old.
Yes. Oh, did I mention I also had a baby in this time?
Might as well. Well, why not? Let's just make this more chaotic.
Yeah.
And as a parent, you're watching this happen as you're watching a slow motion car crash, and you're doing what you can, what you know to do. And at the same time, you've got another little one who was 10 at the time, who's now 15, who I don't like saying kids are desperate for attention. I like saying they are desperate for love.
Right.
Okay.
Whatever you want to say.
Well, and here's what, if someone's like just desperate for attention, like I'm like, shut up, go away. If I see some kid who is desperate for connection, that's a totally different thing, right? That's somebody asking me for air or asking me for a sip of water. That's a different thing than I just want to be the center of attention, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So as a parent, as somebody who feels like they're losing control of everything, it is real easy to try to gain control in as many ways as you can in all the other areas where you think you can drill down. I will tell you that it is 100% in you and your husband's right to want to know who else is in the home of the ex, or in any home where my kids happen to be, period. Right? If it's a friend's house, if it's a cousin's house, or if it's their birth mom's home and she happens to have two strange men in the house. Let's take the polyamory. Let's take the fact that they're all dating. Let's take that out. That confuses it because that rolls us into our morals or our judgments, and it makes everything more chaotic than it needs to be. Okay?
Right.
Let's move that over for a second. And let's just say there are two strange dudes in that house, and I got two teenage daughters. I'm not sending them into that. The idea that because they are all dating means they're more likely to sexually assault and molest a child isn't accurate. I've never read that data anywhere. And I want to be careful not to lob grenades like that, because here's why. It muddies the case for, it starts adding variables and judgments to places that don't need them. Now, I don't think it's wise. I think it's ill-advised. And I would tell anybody this with love in my heart, to have two live-in boyfriends that you're sleeping with at the same time. That's a recipe for disaster. Okay? It just is. And it's okay as parents to say, I don't want my kids getting that model as an alternative presentation of what love looks like. That's okay. But to suggest then, and they're probably molesters, that's where the whole argument, your kids are going to roll their eyes. Here's a good example. If you tell your kids, if you drink a beer, you know what happens? Cancer and death and drunk driving.
Right.
And then the one time they sneak a beer and they wake up the next morning and they're still alive, what they do right then that moment is they say, I wonder what else they lied to me about. And so I have to tell my kids who are 12 and 6, sex is incredible. It's awesome. And it's not for 12 and 6-year-olds. And then I tell them my values, right? So here's the back out of the polyamory thing. 100%. Y'all should be bold and feel really good about saying, I am not going to put my kids in a situation where there's revolving men in a home or two strange men. If those two men want to come meet me and my husband for lunch and we're going to talk through what this looks like, cool. But otherwise, I'm not doing that. And I'll go to court over it and I'll fight you over it. Partridge in a pear tree. We'll fill in the blank. Okay?
Right.
We'll have that conversation. And then in a separate conversation with my 17-year-old and of course my 15-year-old, I would absolutely have the conversation. Here's how we think love should work. And here's what a healthy relationship looks like. We don't agree with your mom's decision to have 2 live-in boyfriends and try to make a, what do they call it, a throuple, I think this is the word, like to try to make that work. That's not something that we think is wise. And we're not going to talk bad about your mom. So we want y'all to know we are intentionally modeling what we think a healthy romantic relationship looks like. And that's where you can leave it. Being distraught and raged out will not change the situation.
Yeah.
Here's what will happen though. Your kids will absorb that tension and they will think it's their fault. Because they will connect the dots that every time they go to mom's house, stepmom and dad get crazy. It must be us. And every time I come over here and go back the other way, it's a little bit quieter. Birth mom doesn't care. So it must be safer. You see what I'm saying? And so I want to.
Right. I mean, we don't.
I know you don't. I know you don't.
Rage out. But,
I know you don't.
Yeah. No,
It's that tension.
We don't want them to have all of that.
Yeah. And so I think it's identifying. We choose to live healthy relationships this way because, and you and your husband may have never had that conversation. You may just be like, I'm not having, my husband's not bringing in a living girlfriend with us. Y'all may have not sat down and said, hey, here's what we think a healthy relationship looks like. Are we modeling that? And that's a killer conversation to have with a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old. That's a great conversation to have.
Yeah.
And then tell them, hold us accountable if you don't see us doing that. Great. And now we're going to start entering into that conversation. And when their mother's situation falls apart, which 100% chance it will, and the internets are going to get mad at me for saying that, it will. The chances of them all being 92, 2 92-year-old dudes and her living out their best, like riding off into the sunset together, are 0. They're just 0, right?
Yeah, no, and I think he's like, he just graduated from college. So like, we're 40 and I think he's 25.
Great. Excellent. So when this falls apart, which it will, what your kids do not need is, and I told you so. They don't need They need a picture of stability that's existed the entire time. See what I mean? And that's what you can offer them. Not no, man. And be real clear with mom. I'm not just going to have strange dudes coming over the house. Not with my 15-year-old daughter and my 17-year-old daughter. It's not going to happen. And expect your daughters to put one and one together and come up with 7 and say, oh, it's because y'all hate mom and you hate us and we hate you.
We've already been down that road.
That's right.
Mom already talked to the oldest about it.
That's exactly right. Stand your ground. Hold your values. Yeah. And be a person of dignity and respect. If you feel your body getting fired up and worked up, say out loud, I need to take a minute. Like this, the idea of putting you in an unsafe situation hurts my heart, and I need to take a second, and I'll circle back to you. And now I'm modeling what frustration and healthy response to that frustration looks like to my teenage daughters, which is a gift that every teenager needs. See what I'm saying? This can be this mess of a situation, which it is, can be an extraordinary opportunity 10 years down the road. Because now y'all are playing a long game with these little ones, right? What does mom say about? Does she say y'all are mean or crazy or abusive? What does she say? Or you're just not progressive enough? Or what does she say?
Well, we kind of try to, I guess, the one conversation that I have heard is that she claims that she is no longer involved with one of the men and that he's just a roommate now. And the other one is now her boyfriend, and she's been dating him for 4 years. This is a traditional relationship. I mean, it was slightly untraditional when she was dating both of them at the same time, but now it's just one.
And do you see how getting into the middle of who's dating who? It doesn't matter. Who cares?
Oh, yeah.
I'm just out of that.
I don't want to know anything
That's
about
right.
anybody's
I don't want to keep
life.
up with it. I don't want to know about it. Here's what I know. I'm not going to put my daughters in a situation where there's a cadre of men that I don't know, that I don't trust, and that I don't know have her best interest at heart. Full stop. And that's at school. That's at friend's house. That's at ex-wife's house. And I'll take you to court over it. I'll spend money over it. But we're not doing this.
Right.
That is totally different. And we're going to talk about values in our home. Like I would expect anybody to talk about their values. Right?
Right.
And so
we do all the time. Like I think it's super important to put out there and not just assume they're going to absorb it.
Okay. I want you to hang on to what I'm about to say and hang on to this. I want you to provide a living, breathing reality that shows why the way you and your husband choose to do adult relationships is a better alternative. And you won't provide that by yelling and screaming. I'm not saying that you do, but you won't provide that by becoming a taser. You're going to provide that by having a home that feels safe and a home that feels warm and patience and being kind and standing up when you need to stand up, but standing up in a way that's under control and honorable, not one of, I can't take it anymore. That's something that children can anchor into. And I hear, and this isn't you, Ann, I'm just extrapolating this broadly to the people listening. I heard this recently. I maybe even talked about it on the show. Somebody said, what if instead of yelling all the time, trying to burn down everything that we don't agree with, we just created such incredible alternatives. We built such incredible things that it rendered the other stuff obsolete. And if I double down on how good my marriage can be, and I create a space between me and my wife that allows my kid to anchor into that, my two kids to anchor into that, and that they can't wait to get home just because it feels safe. It's not a charged environment. And where we listen to them and we hold them accountable. We do all that stuff together. They're going to lean into that safety. They're going to lean into that because it's peaceful, right? That's the fruit there. And so instead of worrying about, it's good, I'm going to show you, here's what this looks like. And that's how people's hearts are going to change. And that's going to allow your kids to, and don't forget, those girls are going to be doing whatever they can for a long, long time to figure out what they did wrong that made mom leave. And the best you can do is walk alongside them and say, you're enough, you're enough, you're enough. And they're going to do any number of things to try to prove to mom that they're worth being loved. And they're going to need you in their ear. You're enough. You're enough. I love you. You're enough.